everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Trevor May podcast. I'm your host, Trevor May. Today, we're going to be talking about frustration, self-awareness, and meditation. As many of you may have noticed, frustration, self-awareness, and meditation are kind of three seemingly connected, ideas, but not quite. It's not quite clear from the outset of what exactly, how exactly they're going to come together. But as I've done in the first 3 episodes of the podcast, I've tried to kind of cover some overarching ideas and things that are just going to keep popping up as I bring on other people to the podcast, and as I try to do a little bit more interview-based stuff, and as I try to cover more specific elements of competition and being an athlete, and and kind of growing in that way. And so I want to try to cover, the basic concepts, the overarching ideas that I've kind of identified as I've progressed here through my life, and then go from there. But before we get into that, let's do a little housekeeping. One, I thought this would be a great time to kind of give an update because I haven't written for MLB Trade Rumors in a little bit, and I haven't done a live vlog or a stream really talking about where I am in my rehab for Tommy John surgery. In 6 days, I will be 1 year from the date of my surgery. I feel phenomenal. Today, March 16th, I threw a 45 pitch bullpen that included all of my breaking pitches, sinkers, sliders, curveballs, and changeups, both sides of the plate, and it felt as normal as I felt in a very long time, and I feel very, very good, to the point where a lot of guys who have had Tommy John before say there's going to be a period of time when you feel great and you'll start to get a little bit frustrated with how quickly things aren't kind of moving, and you're ready to go and you're ready to throw against hitters. You just want to go, which kind of makes this theme of this podcast very fresh in my mind. It's something I've been dealing with in the last couple of days. Frustration at my situation, but at the same time using that frustration for good and as motivation, and really directing it towards something beneficial to me, something useful. And there's a way to use frustration in a useful way for yourself. If it's a place you feel that you go quite a bit into Frustrationville, which, as a youngster, it was something that I was extremely plagued by, to say the least. So that's kind of why this is kind of an apt episode for me. Secondly, really quickly, the episode with Kyle Gibson and I, kind of just shooting the breeze. It's going to come out next week as episode 5. He is currently in the rotation and trying to get ready for a season. So we struggled a little bit. We missed opportunities to kind of record at the field, and I'm just going to make sure I have my stuff with me at the field a couple days next week so that we can make sure that we can get our conversation in before our workout one day, and then get you guys that content. So that's going to be next week. I'm really interested in hearing how he's going to answer some of the questions you guys have sent me. Also, that means there's more time for you to ask questions. So if you want something asked of Kyle Gibson, we got some really good stuff so far. But if you want something asked, please tweet at me at TrevMay65, and I'll make sure that I can at least get some of the best ones that you guys send me, to him, so that we can get some great content for the podcast. So without further ado, let's start kind of just working through how the connection between frustration, self-awareness, and then eventually meditation. How those things lead to another, how they're interconnected, and what they mean to me. And so let's talking about frustration and exactly what frustration is. Frustration is something everyone's felt. It's something that's not going your way, and it's your immediate emotional reaction to something happening to you negatively. So for me, it's always, I'm hyper competitive, so I want to win, or I want the perceived result of success. So if I'm going to play a video game, if I'm going to play a baseball game, if I'm going to play whatever it is, anything competitive against somebody else, if it didn't go my way for whatever reason, and so I lost, my frustration would manifest itself a lot of times in a very embarrassing ways. And like I talked about my journey episode in episode 1, that manifested in emotions, tears, reddening of the face, and outward emotions before I wasn't equipped to handle that. And that's something I still work with through today. If anyone who's watched me stream, you might laugh and you might think it's funny to watch me kind of blow up instantly when I perceive something as like not happening the way it should happen. And it's my immediate response. It's been kind of programmed into me since I was a very small child. And I love my father, and he is a huge part of my life, but he had the same kind of tendencies, and it's pretty clear. We're easily frustrated people, and when he was younger, it was definitely a bigger problem. He's much more mellow now, but especially when fatigued or whatever. Just that's kind of how it manifests itself in outward emotions. And some people get frustrated and they bottle it up, and they go quiet, and they start to just get really inwardly angry. And I was outwardly. So my frustration, I wanted to talk about it and give my experience, because it's important to identify when you are frustrated. I had to learn when I was frustrated and how that was affecting my play on the field, because I play baseball for a living. So you can't really afford to, one, be outwardly emotional, but have those emotions and that frustration start to eat away at your ability to focus. So last week's episode, we talked a lot about the process, right? Focus was a very integral part of our process, locking that focus on the pitch. My frustration, my quickness to going to being frustrated goes directly against my ability to focus. So I talked about how focusing was very hard for me, right? It was because of my quickness to frustration. So I found that I needed to have some sort of strategy, some way of thinking, going about my frustration, or going about fixing frustration, or using frustration, because it was such a natural part of how I react to negative situations that maybe stopping frustration wasn't going to be my best strategy, but using it in a positive way as quickly as humanly possible was a better option for me and a better skill for me to build, instead of trying to change myself, something that is like subconsciously programmed into me. Right. And so that's where we came to kind of the strategies. So for us, identifying that frustration was a problem, that was an immediate reaction I had to negative actions, which, as we know in baseball, is like half of what you're doing. Things just don't go your way that much. It's not like basketball. It's not like, basketball and football can be different, are different than baseball, in that it's built around, a failure, and it's a game of averages, right? So there's going to be you can't take every individual event so hard if it's not going your way, and you need to find small successes and know that those aggregating together mean that you're successful in the whole, as a whole, and looking at the macro as opposed to the micro. And frustration is an element of micro for me, and it made me focus on the micro way too much. So I realized very quickly that I need to develop my self-awareness skill. Anyone that follows me on Twitter, by the way, knows that I have tweeted this several times, that self-awareness is probably the in my opinion, one of the most valuable skills a person can learn, to be able to look at themselves and say, They tell you everything in the last minute, what they've thought, where their head's at, and how they feel, what emotions they're feeling. And they can do that at any point. Anyone that you know that can do that will probably find success in what they do because they're able to inner critique every moment when things are going negatively. They have this natural ability to go back, look at what is happening to them, and correct, right? And then that also takes us back to that process again, right? We look at those 3 steps. Without self-awareness, I can't look at those 3 steps. If I'm terrible at self-critique and looking within myself to know exactly what's happening with me, then knowing what I'm doing out on the mound is almost impossible. Like knowing what's happening to me at any given moment is almost impossible if I'm not self-aware. So I wanted to find a way to, one, build my self-awareness skills so that I'm able to identify those times when I'm frustrated and notice that is what's happening to me. Is frustration is taking over my body, right? And use that frustration in order to improve. So what I did, how I've looked at it, is using that my key of frustration, knowing, right, realizing that, oh my gosh, I'm frustrated, as a marker for an opportunity to see something that I can improve on. Let me repeat that one more time. Every time I'm frustrated, a little bell in my head goes off and I notice my frustration happening. And I see right now something is happening or something just happened that I can learn from. And that kind of used my quest to learn, which is something that also defines me, right? I'm a very curious person. I tried to reinforce that side of me and use what I perceived as a negative element of me, my propensity to get frustrated, and use my positive side to make that useful for me. And so this kind of was reinforced the other day. Here's a little anecdote for you. There's a guy named Tyler Blevins, aka Ninja, who plays a game called Fortnite. A lot of you guys may have seen it on Twitter, or maybe some of you play it, some of you kids, whatever. A lot of people know who Ninja is. Ninja is a member of Luminosity's stream team, and has been a pro player of a lot of different video games, right? A burgeoning market. I am part of his stream team as well, so like I've known about him for quite a bit. But he said something on a stream, and he's had very, very high success lately. He's breaking records on Twitch. He's got all kinds of endorsements, and playing with Drake on stream. He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff he didn't know he could do, or couldn't anticipate happening a couple months ago. But he said something that he thinks about video games the way I should think about baseball all the time, and I do. But he reinforced it in my head, and he said, every time he keeps getting questions, hey Ninja, how do I get better at Fortnite? How do I improve my skills? How do I win? Like, I want to win like you. I want to do the things you do. I want to be you, right? And he says, he goes into his full cam, he looks right at the camera, and he says, hey, every single time that you die, aka fail, every time you fail and you don't win because you died, instead of getting mad, blaming the game, blaming whatever it is, blaming people or blaming yourself, look specifically at why you died and come up with solutions, what you could have done better that would have prevented you from dying. He goes, sometimes the game actually, like your connection killed you, or something in the game, or some glitch killed you. Sometimes that happens, but the vast majority of the time you could have done something different. And he said that, and I said, that is exactly right in competition. Every single time you're dead and you want to blame stuff, that is a manifestation of you being frustrated. Dang it, I lost. I do this when I play the same game as him. I play Fortnite, and I find myself going straight to, what is this? Why is he, what is this, this, that, and the other? And it's crazy to me that I don't apply the same experience that I have on the baseball field to the games, because it's not my career, and that kind of thought that connection hasn't been made. That was a big reason why I made a lot of the changes I did on the field. But it's universal. He has become who he is, and he is as good as he is at every game he plays, and he picks games up quickly because that is the strategy he takes to learning a game. He says, hey, I die, something negative happened to me, didn't go the way I wanted to go. Why did it not go? Again, we're right back on the process. I gave you a process for determining that exact idea, thinking about it that way. What could I have done better? And if there's nothing I could have done better, then let's move on. And that takes self-awareness. And how do you learn self-awareness, right? How do you learn those things? One, the first thing you do is accepting this idea that every single time you find yourself in a situation where something doesn't happen the way that you wanted it to happen, whether or not you get frustrated or you don't get frustrated is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is you take that event and learn from it and dissect it from a personal standpoint. What you could have done. What did you do poorly? Specifically in the game, specifically mentally, whatever it is, whatever element you think that it might have been, identifying that so that next time you can it'll be subconsciously in your head so you won't make that mistake again, or at least or think before you make that mistake again. Correct? So I use the actual feeling of frustration as my key, that this is a moment I need to look inward and what happened here and what can I fix. That's my trigger, right? Some people might have other triggers. They might like laugh or like shake things off or revert, right? They see themselves reverting back to, being complacent or being like whatever, right? That could be their trigger. Like, oh, I just did my thing where I'm like, I don't even care, when I do care. I played it off. Maybe that's your trigger. Mine is outward emotion, which is easier for me to see because a lot of times it's embarrassing and I don't like it. I don't like yelling at my computer. I don't like slamming my mouse. I don't like doing those things. I don't like having that emotion on the mound. I don't like thousands of people seeing me react in that way because it's perceived as weakness when in reality it's just frustration. It's my competitiveness. And if I can use it in a positive manner, it being embarrassing doesn't matter at that point, right? So I use my frustration, just to reiterate, my frustration as a trigger to tell me, using my ability to be self-aware and know myself and know what's going on as a trigger to look exactly what happened and how I'm going to fix it. And that takes us back to last week again with the process. I go AFE. On the mound, it's AFE. In video games, it's the same thing. I analyze. I go, was it my plan that was wrong? Was it my focus on what I was trying to do that was wrong? Or was it me not executing what I wanted to do? Sometimes I was trying to do the wrong thing. There we go. That's a problem with A. Sometimes I was not thinking. I wasn't really focused on what I was trying to do. There's the F. Or sometimes I just didn't. I had a plan and I was focused on it and I just didn't execute it correctly. The timing wasn't there and the guy still killed me. There we go. Same exact process. Same exact idea, just applied to a video game. It's so interesting for me to really think about it that way and how universal a lot of this stuff is. And it really is incredible to know that so much of this stuff can be used on a day-to-day basis. But the hard part is, and this is something that I wish someone would have communicated with me a little bit more clear when I was younger, is how you develop self-awareness as a skill. Outside of just being self-aware, right? Like looking at yourself and like thinking about, okay, how's my arm here feel? How's my left arm feel? How's my right leg feel? All those things are elements of self-awareness, right? Or why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? There's certain ways you can explain a lot of this stuff. And each person you're trying to explain it to reacts to different things in different ways. So you got to find a way to kind of make it apply to each person when you're teaching them. So I want to give you an overarching idea, right? You learn self-awareness through literal practice. Like I just said, literal practice of moving your attention, your focus around on purpose. And let me just take you right back to a previous episode. Do things on purpose. Another overarching theme we have here in the pod. Move your actual attention, your actual awareness of yourself around physically and even mentally, emotional. You go, how do I feel right now? And how did I feel before? And how do I usually feel in this time? And just being thoughtful about what's happening and when in your brain and physically will then start to open up your eyes and make it kind of a habit of checking in with what's happening to you inside. Like, what are you doing? Instead of quote unquote going through the motions. I know a lot of people have heard this. Going through the motions literally means that you have zero self-awareness, and you're just doing things that are automatic to you. And you're not doing them purposefully. Going through the motions means doing things without purpose. So, what I've done to develop this is meditation, right? Meditation has become kind of a fad in culture. Right? A lot of people like, I meditate, and it's for calming me down, or it's for just chilling me out, right? Yes, it does all of those things, and it does it through constant mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is just awareness, being mindful, being thoughtful, meaning you're slowed down and you're thinking about things that matter to you, right? And you're putting your brain somewhere where you are purposely putting it. You're doing this on purpose. You're not just letting it go wherever it wants. There's a lot of elements to it, right? But my meditation practice has helped me. I've identified that I need to use frustration to benefit me as a trigger, and I need to notice when it is there. So a meditation practice, actually saying, "Oh, I'm frustrated now," is a result of me meditating and me putting in the time to do it every day. I meditate every day, at least 5 minutes, sometimes 10, and forgiving myself when I'm not, always every day. I need to do it every day. I need to do it every day. But I really, really do try, because it is so important for me to be aware of what's happening to me. So recently, I've had injuries. I need to know why things hurt, right? That's an element of self-awareness. Like, is there something in my body that's compensating for something else, which then is making something else hurt? That can be found through really, really strong self-awareness and knowledge about yourself. But even mentally, like I said, I had a problem when I was younger, coming up through the ranks in the minor leagues, of losing my process due to frustration. Frustration comes, it throws process out the window, and the results of the pitching after that point were oftentimes poor. And I identified that as a major factor. So I began meditating very specifically, and this is just maybe a tip. I use an app called Headspace. Headspace there's a paid element to it. It's $80 a year, and you can get, it's made by a guy named Andy Puttycomb, I believe his name is, an English fellow who kind of does a lot of talk you through programs. There's programs on sleep, on focus, on creativity, on just general practice, all these different exercises and all these different strategies for doing it that pretty much everyone can find something they like. But there's also, it's also free to try. You can get, I think, the basics for free, so you could technically just learn the basic strategies. There's all kinds of stuff on YouTube as well, guys, meditation services and things of that nature. This is just an app that's on my phone, and it's really high quality content. It keeps track of your streaks and things. Something else, I react to stats, right? I want to know how much I'm meditating and all that stuff. That's just like a driver for me. So that's a great little feature that's also included in the Headspace app. You can check them out on Twitter at Headspace, or just check out the app in the App Store and see if you like it. Try it out. I would highly recommend it. And if you do end up trying it, hit me up on Twitter and let me know. I would love to hear about your experience. I would love to see your streaks. I think that eventually we're gonna start a little challenge here on the pod where we try to get some meditation streaks going, get you guys working through that stuff. But again, if you really, really look at what's going on with you, some people naturally have a lot of this stuff, right? Have the self-awareness and have that natural ability. But I think there's extreme value in realizing that's what you have, right? So I really just look at yourself and say, how well do I do these things? When my game falls apart, what's happening? And if you're having trouble putting your finger on it, or you're having trouble in the moment, really looking at what's happening around you and slowing it all down, it's not technically slowing anything down, right? Nothing's actually slowing down. The game's not slowing down, but your ability to grab your attention, your own attention, where your brain is, and put it where you need it to be or where you want it to be is so extremely valuable and so advanced, such a high level that it's going to lead to success, because you're going to make decisions based on things that you actually need to make decisions on, and not just by stuff that's been automated into you. Making adjustments, like feeling things that you can use later, noticing movement and things from the other team. All these things kind of come along with it. It just naturally comes along with self-awareness. So, my strategy has been developing my mindfulness and my self-awareness through meditation. It's a great way to start. It is literally what meditation is self-awareness. It's just self-awareness practice. And it took me years and years and years to realize that frustration was kind of something that was just going to be there to an extent. Like, there's going to be days where I don't have the conscious mental acuity to just stop my frustration before I outwardly show it. But when I do, recognizing what just happened and have a strategy for using it and flipping it to be positive for me was my best tool in that situation. And so that's exactly what I've done, and that's what I'm excited to do when I get back on the mound. And there's going to be days. So let me just give you a nice little anecdote to kind of tie all this stuff together. Today, I felt really, really good on the mound throwing my bullpen. I threw 45 pitches. That's a long time. I was going to be very fatigued. I knew that. I was going to get tired. So there was mechanical things were going to come out that I've been trying to fix, because when I get tired, I move back towards some old bad habits. I knew that was going to happen. But I really, really, really worked hard on noticing how I feel physically and mentally every single pitch when I was starting to feel fatigued. So it was like pitch 30. And I realized that I was around the plate, but I wasn't just like hitting spots. Like, I didn't feel super happy with all the spots I was hitting. And I really wanted to say, hey, you know what's happening? I want to use it every time I was throwing on the mound and asking myself the question, what's happening? And I felt, there's a little tightness in the hip that wasn't allowing me to get over. And there's a couple of mechanical things that could have fixed. And I was identifying that, dude, sometimes you're going to feel good and you're just not going to be locked in, but you're going to have to battle. So I went right into battle mode. I said, I'm getting a little frustrated because I'm not hitting spots, but I'm going to grab this frustration. I'm going to really look at everything that's causing, look and have some ideas of things that I can go work on when I'm done out of here, and then what small adjustments I can make to just compete here. So I put myself in that context today on the mound. And I was like, if I do this every single time I pitch, I'm good over long term, over a bunch of starts, over a career. You're going to pitch to your potential more often than you would have otherwise. And that is what I want. I want to pitch to my potential. I want to throw the ball where I want to throw it. All those things kind of define what I'm trying to do. So I tried to apply it today, and every single time I go out and throw, even when I'm feeling good, I say I'm feeling good, and why? I'm not frustrated. Why am I not frustrated? And just continuously asking myself those questions, because I know that things are going to change when adrenaline kicks in and I'm throwing against actual hitters, and I need to get guys out on a big league mound. It's going to be hard after not doing it for almost 16 months, or even more than that, 18 months. It's going to be very hard for me to just jump right back in, but I am going to do my darndest to be locked and ready and have every trick in my book ready for when I'm out there and I'm like, I've been training for this. I'm so ready to do this, and I'm excited to do it. And if I find myself getting frustrated, or I find things going well, I'm going to know exactly what and why things are happening the way they are. And I'm either going to continue doing the positive stuff, and I'm going to start flipping the negative stuff around to make it positive for me, so that I can compete out here on the mound. That is what's going to happen. So, thank you so much. That concludes episode 4 of the Trevor May podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Do not forget to follow do not forget to follow on social medias at TrevMay65. That is on Facebook, that is on Instagram, and that is on Twitter. Twitter is my most popular. My DMs are always open. Don't forget to hit me with some Kyle Gibson last minute questions if you have questions for Kyle Gibson. This episode is also going to be available on YouTube at I am Trevor May. And don't forget, on the weekends, either Saturday or Sunday, I also post this on Twitter. I do a live stream on Twitch where we talk baseball and let people open it up for questions, go over video with guys who want their video looked at. Kind of just an all-purpose baseball day, competition day, even addressing some questions maybe on the podcast, right? And I do that live on twitch.tv, twitch.tv/I am Trevor May as well. Don't forget, if you're listening to on one of the podcast services, to leave a review and let me know what you thought. And 5 stars would be phenomenal. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.